Good evening, all. Welcome to the 33rd edition of the Boxing Gossip podcast. And going to be a very, very big show tonight. Huge amount to discuss. As always, we're going to start by giving a rundown of last week's fights. We're going to look at the big Anthony Joshua versus Eric Molina card and all the undercard fights there, from Luis Ortiz, Dave Allen, to Derek Chisora, Dillian White. We're going to cross the ponds and we're going to go over and discuss Joseph Parker and his performance winning the world title against Andy Ruiz. And then we're going to talk about some of the major news in boxing. We're going to be talking about Joshua Klitschko. We're going to be talking about Eubank Jr. Before we look ahead to next week's fights, Povetkin Stavern, Bernard Hopkins, and some other highlights. So Irish Tom's running a little bit late tonight. He is going to be joining us very, very shortly. But we're starting with Paul and Jet. Before we get into it, just a very, very quick thank you to everyone. This week saw my most viewed video ever on the channel, which was my Joseph Parker versus Andy Ruiz post-fight video. That's gone up to 14,000 views. So massive shout out to everyone who shared that, to everyone who liked it, and to everyone who took the time to watch it. Really, really good to see things going in that positive direction. But before we start, not before we start, let's get it started. I'm going to start by bringing in Paul. Paul, how you doing? Give us your take on Joshua Molina, mate.
Yeah, hi Tom, hi everyone. Yeah, I'm good. Just the main event or the whole card or what?
Let's start with the main event, because I guess there's a lot to talk about, and then we'll sort of go down the card as we go, I guess, mate.
Yeah, for sure. Right. So, wow, the main event. What can you say? I mean, you know, AJ did what he needed to do. He didn't really do anything wrong, but then again, there wasn't really much opportunity for him to do much wrong. I mean, I think other than maybe two attempts at a wild swing, looking for that Hail Mary punch, Molina. I mean, Molina was worse than I even thought, and I thought AJ, and I said 3 or 4 rounds, I think, and he knocked him out in the third. But I think he sort of the negativity of Molina was did actually take me by surprise. He just looked he almost looked sort of like scared, to be honest, to me. I think felt a shot in the first, and I think after that he didn't seem to want to know anymore, which is just crazy. I don't understand how you arrive on this stage, and it's not like he was a stranger to big shows. He'd fought Wilder, gave a good account of himself against Wilder. He'd gone to Poland, to Adam X's backyard, and although I think he was getting outboxed in that fight, he knocked Adam X out in the 10th, I believe. But Saturday night, he just looked shell shocked, and when AJ dropped him in the third, he sat on the ground and just looked. He didn't look really badly hurt, like he couldn't get up, but he looked like, my God, what the fuck could just hit me? I don't want to get back up. That's what he looked like to me. And then obviously, once he did get back up, it ended pretty soon after. You can't criticize AJ for it. You know, everything about Molina in the run up to this. I know he'd been knocked out by Ariola in the first round, but that was quite some time ago. All the recent evidence of Molina suggested that he should be a test. Certainly, at one point in the Wilder fight, he looked like he actually might knock Wilder out, and so you can't really blame anyone for the opponent. It's just he didn't show up for whatever reason. He was pretty awful, but thankfully as we're gonna move on and talk about there was some other stuff on the undercard that kind of made up for the short showing on the main event.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one quick question on the main event, Paul. Like, for me, it was a very, very dull fight. It was it was a fight that was really, really uninspiring. Having said that, Joshua put in a punch perfect performance, and whilst you could say Molina isn't much of an opponent, I had him at the bottom end of my top 30. Um, the troubles he gave Deontay Wilder, how does it make you think that Anthony Joshua is potentially a superior fighter to Deontay Wilder?
I don't know if that in itself just makes me think that. You could look at it like that, but I don't know if that in itself. I mean, styles make fights different night, a different occasion, different. There's. I don't think you can really say that. I do think Joshua's a better fighter than Wilder. I think other than maybe power. Um, I think Joshua's probably a bit better than Wilder in just about every area. I've said for some time I don't think Wilder's great fundamentally. I think his fundamentals are lacking. His defense sorely lacking. The way he jumps back with his arms in the air and the way he swings wildly. I think his opponents to date, even though he's had 35 fights, which is just mind blowing to me, his opponents have not been much better than AJ's. If better at all, you could maybe say Japar is a bit better than Dillian White. You could maybe say Ariola is a bit better than Charles Martin. But, I mean, considering AJ's had 17, 18 fights and Wilder's had 35 fights, they've had very similar opposition. Maybe Staverne's just about the best of all of their opponents. But I do think AJ had beat Wilder, but it's that power that Wilder carries that can just be the difference, can't it?
Yeah, I think it would be a great fight to see. The one thing that I think Joshua is certainly better than Wilder, and I'm sure you agree, Paul, is discipline. He's a very structured fighter, and Wilder is not overly structured. And I think against an opponent like Molina, that structure was hugely to Joshua's benefit and to Wilder's detriment. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you think with regards to that? Do you think the fact that AJ dispatched Molina in such clinical fashion and so quickly says a lot about AJ in relation to Wilder?
I think it's one of those styles make fight things. I don't think that the two performances necessarily means Anthony Joshua beats Wilder. I believe that against an opponent like Molina, who's going to box in that manner, AJ will adopt a clinical approach where he looks to jab and break down slowly an opponent. Whereas I believe Deontay Wilder will become a bit wild, no pun intended, go all out on aggression, swing for the fences a bit more. I don't necessarily believe that the style Molina presented would be the way that either of them would box if they were to replicate each other. If they were to fight each other, should I say. So, no, I was impressed by Joshua's performance, despite the fact I was disappointed by the fight. But it doesn't necessarily make me buy into the fact that Joshua beats Wilder. No. So I think we're probably on the same page there, are we, Paul?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, definitely.
Cool. I'm going to bring in Jet. We'll come back to you for the undercard, Paul. Jet, talk to me about Joshua Molina, mate.
There's nothing really to add on the fight itself. I mean, Joshua did what he had to do. He convincingly done well, but ultimately we don't really learn anything new about Anthony Joshua apart from a kind of a name on his record. I guess it's a tough one. I mean, obviously you guys were talking about Wilder and if he could beat Wilder and that sort of like performance using Eric Molina as a gauge. But I mean, you probably put it right, Tom. It's tough to kind of put, say Joshua's better than Wilder because styles make fights. Eric Molina was very, very, very negative. Not that I was expecting much from him, but he went in there pretty much. He was already beat before he got in the ring, and it was quite disappointing that that's a world title fight at such a high level. It's just it looks bad on the sport. I know we had another world title fight over the weekend as well. That wasn't the greatest of fights either, and certainly not a great world title fight in regards to the heavyweight division. So compared to what we've been having recently with Tyson Fury, Vladimir Klitschko. So yeah, I mean, obviously he's got Vladimir Klitschko next. So yeah, I mean, it's a big fight, good for him. But did this fight put him in good stead for the Vladimir Klitschko fight? I don't think so at all. Very, very, very poor.
Yeah. What about the Deontay Wilder conversation that Paul and I were just having, Jet? Is that something that you've got an opinion on?
I mean, it's tough because Wilder obviously has had about 30, 35 fights. I know he's been knocking over sort of guys that he should be knocking out and that sort of stuff, but he showed some really, really good power against people like Spilka and, Depar and those sort of guys. But generally, I mean, we have to wait for the fight, I guess. You can't really say, one's going to win definitely on the Eric Molina sort of performance. I know, Eric Molina gave Wilder hell for a few rounds here and there and obviously got knocked out. He buzzed Wilder quite hard as well. Joshua, obviously, he's been kind of plain sailing. That the one time he's actually only been hit is Dylan White. So, I mean, it's tough. I mean, with me, I'd probably go with Anthony Joshua as a slight favourite, but I think just generally in terms of boxing skills, he's a bit more sophisticated in regards to Wilder. Wilder's a bit more sort of hands up in the air, dodgeball style. I know you love that action. He is a bit crude in his boxing skills, and sometimes when he punches, he's quite wild as well. So yeah, I'd make Joshua a slight favourite, but maybe against the top sort of guns. I was talking about it with some of my friends who are sort of casual fans, and they love the Anthony Joshuas of the world. And they were saying, does Tyson Fury beat him? And I said, absolutely, 100% he beats him. He beats him, Wilder, and any of the other guys at heavyweight, Luis Ortiz. You put him in with anyone, Tyson Fury is the man to beat. And I said, hopefully he comes back, but don't hold your breath. But yeah, Joshua, I give a slight, I make a slight favourite over Wilder, very, very, very slightly, maybe like 55-45, something like that.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Yeah, cheers for that. Let's bring in Irish Tom, who's joined us. Tom, how you doing?
How you doing, lads? I think my internet might be shit.
Yeah, that wasn't promising entry, I must admit. But yeah, let's give it a go. Joshua Molina, mate.
Yeah, very disappointing, finish to the card. Molina didn't bring anything to it. He tried to sit on the ropes and walk Joshua onto a punch, and he didn't throw. I can't hardly remember one punch of note that he threw in the 3 rounds. So desperately poor performance. I don't know if he was just there for the money or he got psyched out by Joshua's reputation, but it reminded. I know the undercard was pretty good now last night, but the kind of sense of I don't know. It was just such a dead atmosphere when it happened. It felt like the last one it reminded me of was when he fought the Scottish lad. What was his?
Gary Cornish.
Yeah. Do you remember Gary Cornish was headlining? Gary Cornish was headlining, and then he just knocks him out in 90 seconds, and it was just I remember watching it that night going, this is just taking the piss. But it did feel like that after a really good previous bout. So, I don't agree. I think if Joshua is fighting Wilder, I make Joshua a heavy favourite. Though he's a far better boxer than Wilder. But the only thing is, how heavy a favourite you make it is it depends on Joshua's chin. But if Joshua's chin is able to stand up to Klitschko, I think he'll handle Wilder very easy, and as Klitschko would.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to the Klitschko fight later on. I think that's a That's going to be one of the major discussion points tonight, certainly. So, okay, Tom, we'll come back to you in just a little bit. We'll move on to the undercard now. Let's start with you, Paul, again on Chisora versus Dillian White. One of the best fights I've ever seen, Paul.
Yeah, it was a fantastic fight. I think this is probably the biggest surprise to me. And I think everybody else was of the same opinion. I think we all pretty much were unanimous in thinking that it was going to be a fucking dog shit fight. I already thought it was going to be one of them sort of like, clinch fest, sort of like scared to throw a punch. But what a fight, man. Absolutely. I thought it was a fantastic fight. It's one of the best heavyweight fights I've seen in a while. I mean, to be honest, and I saw a comment somewhere, I can't remember. Somebody said AJ and Molina are lucky to get onto the Dillian White, Derek Chisora undercard. Based on action, I think it's a fair comment. That really was the fight of the night for me. The Burton. Jose Burton Buglioni fight was good as well. But yeah, I mean, Chisora White, I watched it twice, scored it both times, scored it a draw. No, let me think. Yeah, no, I scored it to Chisora on the night, and then I scored it again, watched it again and scored it again, and I had it a draw. I think, it's one of them things where you can't really argue either way. Both guys performed with immense credit. Both really deserved. I I think it should have been a draw, and I'd love to see a rematch. Love to see the rematch. For the build-up, but if they can replicate anything like that in the ring, it was really, really great fight.
Definitely. Who would you have an instinct as to who you'd be picking in the rematch, Paul?
I think you'd have to pick White for the simple fact that Father Time. I think the sort of like the bad blood and the fact that they'd had beef for quite some time. I don't think they've liked each other for quite some time. Used to train in the same gym and whatnot. I think that played a massive part in how the fight turned out. If you remember back to the Joshua Dillian White fight, that was a good fight as well. And that, again, it was emotion. It was about more than a British title. And this fight of the weekend was about more than the eliminator that it was for. Although I think that was a big part of what was driving Chisora. I think he kind of maybe sees that as last chance saloon for a shot at a world title again. But I think the beef that kind of preceded this fight probably played a massive role in how it went. And could that happen again? I'm not so sure. They kind of like they give each other a hug at the end, didn't they?
Yeah.
And would the beef be as strong? Would Chisora, what's probably going to be at least. I suppose they could put it on the undercard of at Wembley there in April. So, but he's still going to be 4 months older, and Father Time waits for no man. So you'd have to pick White, just based on that for me, just on youth, bit more active.
Absolutely. Final question on that, Paul. If White Chisora was the headline fight in a pay-per-view, the rematch that is, what would be your take on that?
Based on that, I mean, you could. I mean, I don't generally pay for pay-per-views anyway, so. But I don't. If I did, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd have a problem with it based on that, because you'd be constantly thinking if it is anywhere near as good as the first fight, it's well worth it. I mean, if a shitty fight like AJ versus Molina is a headline pay-per-view fight, then surely based on that bit of history, it's fair enough. What do you think?
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, my instinct is that pay-per-view should represent the elite levels of the sport, you know, world title fights, that sort of thing. Having said that, what would I rather, pay for a world title elite level fight like Joshua Molina, or pay for a 50-50 barn burner like White Chisora? To be honest, I'd probably be more inclined for White Chisora. And you know, the first fight was so good, it's going to generate hype and interest around the second fight. So I'm sure Irish Tom will tell me off when we bring him back in. But no, I wouldn't be dead against it. And it would certainly be a lot better than the Eubank pay-per-view, which we'll come on to later on in the show, hey?
Thinking about it, I mean, I agree with you. I would rather watch, and if I was going to pay for one, I would much rather pay for a 50-50 barnstormer. But thinking about it, it's not. I don't think it's really fight fans like ourselves that make up the bulk of the people that pay for pay-per-views, is it? And I think probably the casual fan would much rather watch AJ flex's muscles and beat shit out of like an overmatched Eric Molina or Charles Martin for 2 or 3 rounds. You know,
absolutely. No, you're spot on. You're spot on. Although I do think the WWE antics of White Chisora would potentially, lead to that. And again, something I'm sure Irish Tom will mention later, but a lot of indications that Chisora, well, he was quoted as saying in an interview that Eddie Hearn actually paid his fine to the British Boxing Board of Control. Possibly Eddie Hearn has realised the benefit of those antics and those build-ups in terms of making a pay-per-view event, I guess.
Well, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the numbers were for that event.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't released the numbers, but by all accounts, it was a very, very good, good showing in terms of the numbers.
Yeah, I would imagine so, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Jet, how did you score Chisora White?
I scored it. I originally had it 2 rounds to White, and I thought I was a bit wider. But when I rescored it, I scored it 1 round to White. I thought White won the fight. I know some people, loads of people on Twitter in the evening were saying that it was a fantastic fight, which it was. Brilliant fight. But they were saying Derek Chisora won, or it was a draw. I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be disappointed if Derek Chisora won or if it was a draw. It was a very, very close fight. I mean, I think in the last few rounds, Derek just tried to tuck up and he was horribly gassed. I mean, both of them were, but, in the last few rounds, Dillian Whyte was just trying to, get his shots off and that sort of stuff. And I think he just landed a few more in the later rounds. Hence, he probably took the last few rounds of my card. I have to say, David Hay on commentary, I never want to listen to him again. He's an absolute embarrassment. In one of the rounds, he gave Chisora the round, and Chisora didn't even land anything. He didn't land anything. And he's like, I'm going to give that round to Chisora. He looked like he put it on Dillian Whyte a bit. I was just sitting there thinking in my head, like, this guy is deluded. I actually hope Tony Belly knocks him out. He's a fraud. He's so bad. But yeah, it was a really, really good fight. I wouldn't be opposed to a rematch, and it'd be really, really good. I know Eddie Hearn has actually said that he'll probably headline a show on its own and then have its own undercard. It won't be on the sort of AJ Vlad undercard, so that would be good, and at least these guys get more and more exposure. Not that they need it, but builds it up, and maybe as you said, it's probably right. They won't get the sort of WWE style, antics outside the ring. They did have like a bit of a shake of hands and a bit of respect shown, so maybe that might not be there. But if the fight, if it's as good as the first fight, I won't be complaining. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Do you have an instinct as to who you'd pick second time round, Jack?
I'll probably go with Dillian Whyte again. I just think he's a bit more fresher. He's got a bit more to offer. Derek did really well in sort of the early to mid rounds. He done really, really well, I'll be honest. But I just think he'll run out of gas later in the fight, which they both will. Dillian Whyte's not a great conditioned fighter either, but I just think he's a bit fresher, a bit hungrier, and I think, they're at the same sort of level at the moment in time, but Dillian Whyte could push on a little bit more in his career at this moment. Derek Chisora's already been there. I was actually watching the gloves are off today, but he said, I've been there already, I've done everything. So maybe, his confidence, his sort of his standing, he's not really bothered. He's just trying to get a few paydays and get out of boxing now. He's in his mid to late 30s. So, money is the sort of motivation for Derek Chisora at this moment in time. I think Dillian Whyte will just shade a victory in the second fight if that happens.
Okay, and putting that to one side, how highly do you rate Dillian Whyte at present? Because I've got to say, the more I see Dillian Whyte, the less convinced I am that he's going to be a world level operator.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, but you better be careful because Dillian Whyte will want a street fight with you, so be careful. But yeah, I mean, look, at this sort of level, British level, he's decent. I mean, obviously he didn't knock out Dave Allen, who was on the undercard against Ortiz. But, he's decent at this sort of level. Can he push European level? I've said this in a few previous shows, in previous podcasts, that look at the European champion who he is currently. It's Kubrat Pulev. Can he beat Kubrat Pulev? No. Look below down, just further down, Johan Depar, Erkin, can he beat Tepa off the Ruiz? Probably, yes. Depar's very good. He had a good win last time out against Hellenius. Can he beat those sort of guys? It's tough. I mean, those guys are just, on the European scene. Can he step up and make it a successful step up? I know he's obviously said, I'm going to beat Derek Chisora and have one more fight and then go for a world title because he's quite high up in the WBC rankings, if I'm correct. I think he's number 4 or 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, it's there. Eddie Hearn has, he has the numbers and that sort of stuff to make it happen. But at this level, at this moment in time, his level is British level. He I can't see him progressing past European level, especially with the fighters, in that sort of circle, especially world level fighters as well. Andy Josh was a world level fighter only because he holds a world title belt. But is he truly world level based on experience, resume? I know he was in the amateurs for a long time. Well, not long enough, I guess. He won Olympic gold, but he's world level only because he has a belt. So it's tough to kind of gauge. I just don't think Dillian Whyte, has the skills and the tools to kind of push past European level, and maybe even he might just plateau at European level. I guess maybe at that sort of level.
Okay. I think you could well be spot on there. Let me bring in Tom. Tom, how did you score the fight, mate?
I think when I was scoring it, I had money on White, so I gave it 7-5 to White.
Okay.
And I haven't watched it again, but I think the fairest result is a draw. It seems to be what everybody is pointing towards. But I just put money on it for that. I was fairly confident he'd win it as well, just even at the end, just because of the politics. But yeah, no, I thought it was a great fight. I don't know if anybody seen that photo of Dylan where he's facing the wrong direction after getting punched.
Yes, I saw that. Yes,
that's a crazy photo. He looks, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but every time I see Dillian Whyte, like after seeing that photo now, I think he looks like Popeye. It's like that bit where he'd squashed a can of spinach and the spinach would jump into his mouth, except this time it's blood flying out of his mouth in the wrong direction. But a great fight. I always knew that Dillian Whyte. Did anybody else know that Dillian Whyte's grandfather is Irish? He's
I suspected it too, Tom.
He's like the East.
I've actually heard it. I heard him say it before, so I did know that. But yeah,
he must be the least Irish-looking fella I ever saw in my life. I would never have. But he's fair play to Dillian. He fought a great fight, but the only thing is, that's the ghost of Derek Chisora. Like, how far is Derek Chisora since when he fought Vitali 2012, 2013? He's a long way below that. And, Chisora never got above the European level, even though he gave it a good go when he went to world level. So, Dylan, to be honest with you, he's only British level.
Yeah, I
So
he was also hit way too easily. I think Chisora, some of them punches that Chisora was hitting him with, were quite wild. Some of them were nice punches, but some of them were quite wild, and just think he's too easily hit, Dillian Whyte.
yeah, he's wide open. The thing is, having a good chin like that doesn't last too long.
Does he actually have a good chin? I mean, this is the question for me. I thought he had an amazing chin, but, he got horrifically knocked out by Anthony Joshua. And subsequently, we've seen Dominic Breazeale go later in the fight. And we saw him badly rocked on several occasions by Derek Chisora. And I mean, Derek Chisora is not a puncher.
Well, I think it's a bit harsh to say Derek's not a puncher. Derek can punch.
Derek is not a puncher.
No. Do you think he's not a puncher at all?
I don't think he's a puncher at all. No, I don't think he's ever shown punching power. Ever. Stage. I can't think of who's the best person Chisora's ever knocked out. Well, it's Malik Scott when Malik, quit. But who is the best person Chisora's actually knocked out?
But the thing is, you got to look at it. Is it like, Derek bet those guys at that level, and when he went up to the top level, who did he fight? Vitaly Klitschko and David Hay. And like, he didn't knock any of them out though, because they're all absolute top-notch quality fighters. So it's hard to know whether he could knock them out, or is it just a fact that he's not able to actually connect with them, or if they got good chins. So I don't know. I think Derek's got decent power. He's not feather-fisted or anything. He's just like a standard, good, heavy-hitting heavyweight. He's below average. I'd just say he's like, he's a decent punch. But what Dillian's not. You're not going to be able to go to the tank like that too much. You just be able to go. So
what about Whyte's power, Tom? Were you? Did you? I mean, we were talking about his chin, but Whyte's now had 3 fights on the bounce where he's seemingly not carried the power as he's gone up in levels compared to early on in his career. How do you rate Whyte as a puncher? You there, Tom?
The same.
Tom, we've lost you, mate. I'm sorry.
Some people are at the European level.
Mate. We've lost you completely there. Let me ask that question to Paul. Paul, about Dillian Whyte's power and chin. What's your take on it, mate?
I think he has got an all right chin. I think his power has been somewhat found out when he's moved up in level. I mean, Chisora. I mean, he couldn't knock Chisora out. He couldn't knock David Allen out. I know David Allen's got a good chin and stuff, but I don't think he's got awesome power by any stretch of the imagination. Dillian Whyte. I think Chisora's got decent power. He hasn't got enormous power by any stretch, but he. I just think Dillian Whyte is. I don't think he's going to go much further than he is. I think I agree with Jet. I think if he was to get to European level, I think guys like Kubrat Pulev, even Hellenius. I mean, Erkan Tepe, I think he could possibly beat Erkan Tepe, because Erkan Tepe off the steroids seems to be a shell of his former self, doesn't he? He looked awful in defeat against Christian Hamer there recently. I've never been hugely sold on Dillian Whyte. I think the Joshua fight went as long as it did because it was about emotion and beef and people. I don't think Joshua was anywhere near sort of like on his game. I think he fought with his heart on his sleeve in a way that didn't suit his style. And I've just never been massively sold on Dillian Whyte, but they both went up to a certain degree, in my estimation, at the weekend, because they both took some big shots and gave some big shots. And I think even in the end, I wanted to say, Jet was saying, like, towards the end, Chisora was gassed. I think they were both gassed for a while, but I think they both pulled it back out. I think if you look at that last round again, they both, it was either the last round of the 11th, they both nearly knocked each other out. At one point, Dalboy was nearly knocked out, and then the next thing he's like nearly knocking Dillian White out. So I think Dalboy maybe just eased his foot off the gas. I think that was probably his experience showing a bit, knowing that, like, if I'm going to be in with a shout at the end here, this guy's obviously not going to go down too easily. If I'm going to be in with a shout towards the end here, I'm going to have to save a bit. So I think that was probably that was more than gassing. But yeah, I don't think. To answer your question, I don't think Dillian White's got enormous power by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, makes sense. What about the rest of the card, Paul? Before we move it on, we talked about Bullioni, Burton, but Kaliafai, Quigg, Katie Taylor, Conor Benn, Callum Smith, Luis Ortiz, Dave Allen. Anything else you want to give a shout to?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a pretty good card. I mean, I thought Katie Taylor looked good. Even though she didn't knock the other girl out, I think she still looked good.
Yeah.
It was the one night where people don't normally bother me when there's a big card of boxing on, but it was the one night where, like, people were just phoning left, right, and centre, so I kept on getting pulled away from it. The Scott Quigg card, and the Scott Quigg fight, I didn't see much of. Luis Ortiz seems to be slowing down for me. I feel like I'm watching Father Time catch up with Luis Ortiz right before my eyes. If I look at Luis Ortiz versus Jennings, and then I look at Luis Ortiz versus Malik Scott or Luis Ortiz at the weekend there, I think there's a distinct difference.
I completely agree, mate. I think that the last two fighters, Malik Scott and Dave Allen, haven't brought out the best in him, but I didn't like what I saw from Luis Ortiz. Dave Allen, Rob saying in the chat, can we take a second to appreciate Dave Allen? Absolutely. What a chin. What a chin. What a heart. What a warrior. Dave Allen, to me, looked like a seasoned professional defensively in there. Some of his defensive slickness was unbelievable for a guy in his early 20s who had a limited amateur pedigree and is new in his pro career. Where Dave Allen, for me, lacked is his offense was poor. When he put punches together and tried to assault Luis Ortiz, I didn't think there was any snap or any, there wasn't much relevance in the work coming from Allen, but he's got some talent, Dave Allen has. I mean, do you think he could get an English title or a British title, mate, if he resurrects his career and goes a different route?
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with what you were just saying there, Tom. And who was it in the chat that was saying?
Rob.
Yeah, shout out Rob as well. Definitely, it's funny. He was saying Dave Allen. This is now himself in the post-fight interviews with IFL. That I think he kind of like has taken a bit of encouragement from this fight, and well, he should. He's Box Record got Luis Ortiz at number 1. I don't agree with that, but it's still I think we can all agree Luis Ortiz is an elite level heavyweight, and I think Dave Allen gave a great account of himself, and in that interview he said, I've really shown myself that if I was to really train hard and really start taking this seriously, that maybe I could go somewhere in the sport. And I actually agree with him. He's he's, I think, he's only young. How old is he? What is he, 23?
20, I think about 23, mate. He might be 24,
Yeah.
but that sort of bracket, yeah.
The baby in heavyweight terms. So I think if he was to, start taking it seriously and really working on some things, yeah, I mean, he's got some attributes. He's definitely got some attributes, and yeah, I think he's done himself no harm with that at all. And I mean, he still didn't get knocked down. I mean, I think it was a fair enough stoppage. He was getting hurt, but he's done himself no harm there whatsoever. Massive credit to him. Massive credit to Dave Allen for sure. Other fights. Well done to Calify. Beating Lewis Conception, good performance. I've got to say, Matthew Macklin, the Sky commentary just outdoes itself again. Matthew Macklin. Did you see the Sky? Did you watch it on Sky? Did you hear Matthew Macklin's commentary
On which fight, mate?
on the Calify fight?
To be honest, I had a mate round, and the Calify fight, without meaning to sound like being down on it, wasn't overly exciting. So a lot of that fight I spent chatting with my mate rather than actually listening to the commentary, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I mean, Matthew Macklin was just... Calify was dominating the fight. He was winning the fight. But to listen to Matthew Macklin's commentary, you'd think it was a young Sugar Ray Leonard in there. It was absolutely ridiculous. I'm fairly sure that Matthew Macklin had to wipe his top lip at the end of that fight. It was just ridiculous. Every time he was throwing a fight, just amazing for me. Calify is just absolutely amazing. I mean, I know he's from Birmingham as well. Fucking hell, come on. It was a good fight. Burton Buglioni, great fight. Really, really good fight. Not sure I thought Buglioni had that in him, to be honest. In fact, I didn't think he had that in him. to be completely honest, I really didn't. What was the other? I didn't see the Conor Benn fight. What did Conor Benn look like?
Conor Benn destroyed the opponent in 20 seconds.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, just absolutely went out and tore him a new one. Yeah.
But welterweight as well, wasn't it?
Is that welterweight? Yeah. Conor Benn, he did very, very well, but the fight was so uncompetitive. It's kind of hard to work out what it was we were watching, I guess.
Yeah.
What about Callum Smith, Paul? Just briefly.
I got one of those phone calls I was talking about, and
Okay.
I seen most of the fight, and the phone call came as I looked away, and then I heard a cheer, and I looked back, and your man was on the floor, so I missed the knockout. Apparently, it was a good knockout, so I was a bit pissed off to miss that. But Callum Smith didn't impress me at all, and Johnny Nelson, I think I tweeted this on the night, Johnny Nelson was saying, well, now with this win, he's definitely proved himself elite level, and I'm just thinking, what? Because he beat Luke Blackledge. Does anybody think that means that Callum Smith's elite level?
No, I mean, I've got to say, first and foremost, it was a chilling stoppage. And, it was good to see Blackledge was all okay. But it was before that, it was a fight that was, for me, I was struggling to stay awake with. I thought Callum Smith's performance was really, he looked like a good British champion in there. He did not look like a guy to me who was going to go and wipe out the winner of Badu Jack versus James DeGale. At the minute, I see him as, second tier to that sort of level. I really do.
Chunky schools him. Chunky boxed the head off him, I think.
I think so. I mean, Callum Smith, he obviously has a puncher's chance, but I find it hard to see him outboxing James De Gale. I really do. I think the slickness and the awkwardness that De Gale presents will prove far too much, surely.
De Gale's timing as well. I was watching the Dural fight, the De Gale-Dural fight again recently. And De Gale's timing, his timing is really good. And, as we know, timing beats speed. Every time. I don't see it in Callum Smith. Early days, I thought, oh yeah, great, as we all probably did. He's knocking out these people, but it's as you move on and move up, you kind of sometimes get found out. And for me, even with the knockout, I think Callum Smith, I don't rate him, to be honest.
Yeah.
About it, wasn't it? Scott Quigg. I missed that fight, so I don't know how Scott Quigg looked.
Yeah, Scott Quigg. I actually thought he looked quite good in there. He was coming forward like a sort of poor man's Golovkin. He was very much trying to cut down the ring, trying to work the body, and then go up top. He was putting punches together quite nicely. And again, he scored one by quite a chilling knockout that came against the run of play. A lot of the Sky commentary was saying that they were slightly concerned that, he was landing with pretty much every punch under the sun on this guy and not hurting him. And perhaps the power hadn't moved up to the higher weight class. But as I say, he did then win by a chilling knockout. So we'll have to see. But I actually thought Scott Quigg looked quite good in there, even though it wasn't the most entertaining fight. So there you go. Let me bring Jet in. Jet, any standout performances out of that undercard for yourself, mate?
Sorry, is that me?
Yes, mate.
Yeah. So the undercard, I mean, it was decent. Pretty, not brilliant, but it was pretty decent. Kind of, obviously, Dillian Whyte Chisora, we spoke about that. Scott Quigg, I know you guys were just talking about now. Scott Quigg looked okay, not spectacular. I mean, Cayetano, to be fair, the Sky commentary team, they did say if he kind of took things more seriously and he sparred with, better guys in the gym, he'd probably be a lot better, which he would. You can see fundamentally he's not that bad. He's pretty decent. But, Scott Quigg did a job on him. Well done to him. He's obviously come back and had a nasty injury in the Frampton fight, so good comeback win for him, I guess. Burton Buglioni was a very, very good fight. Excellent fight, actually. I was, slightly disappointed in Burton. I think, he could have kind of boxed a bit more. He tried to get, involved in the tear-up at times. He was kind of egging Buglioni on. And Buglioni, I know he's beat Burton, but, if you look at kind of experience-wise, I know Burton beat Shinkwin, but he hasn't really fought anyone else since. And, he kind of maybe had a bit more experience and just caught up with him in the 12th round. The knockdowns were quite brutal, to be fair. But, Buglioni won't be moving past the British level at light heavyweight, let's put it that way. Well, it was Kalya Fire. I like to say it to everyone on the podcast. I told you so, that he was going to win. Everyone picking Conception, but no, that was a really good win for him. I know Sky commentary were, obviously he's from Birmingham and Macklin's from Birmingham and that sort of stuff. But if you look at the fight itself, he completely dominated. Conception. It was really, really bad. He was bad. I mean, he probably is a natural flyweight, who's obviously a two-weight world champion. He beat a good world champion in Kono, who's actually fighting Inui in a few weeks' time as well. And, he came in, missed weight, very unprofessional. He's been in the game a long, long time. And he missed weight by quite a lot. He came in almost as a bantamweight. So, it's, I know people have to kind of put it into perspective as well. I mean, he didn't really bring too much to the table, which is a bit disappointing. But Kalya, I think, kind of neutered a lot of his offense, and he looked really, really good. Maybe against the other world champions, he could probably beat this guy called Jerwin Ankias. He's the IBF champion. But against Gonzalez and Inui, I don't think he's got a chance against them. But congrats to him. He's a world champion. So, yeah, well done to him. Callum Smith looked terrible.
Sorry,
Blackley-
yeah. Did you say? Sorry to interrupt. Jet, did
Yeah.
you say the fella that your fight beat is fighting Inoue?
No. Kono is fighting.
Oh,
Kono
Kono
is fighting. Yeah, Kono is fighting Inoue in
yeah.
a few weeks' time, I think. So that fight's been made already. But I think Inoue's going to win that fight anyway, pretty easy.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries, man. No worries. Callum Smith, yeah. Blackledge, I tweeted out after Blackledge is a warrior, and obviously he was down with the oxygen mask and that sort of stuff, and I got a fair few retweets and likes. I think loads of people enjoyed Blackledge's performances. He was really, really game, really brave. He showed a lot of guts in there. Callum Smith didn't show me anything to suggest he's going to be, either Badu Jack or James DeGale, and that is worrying. I think that's really, really worrying for Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, because they've obviously built him up to be this massive, gangly puncher at 168 who's going to, steamroll the whole division, and it's probably going to be him versus Gilberto Ramirez in a unification of all the belts or something like that. And he's looked terrible in his last 2 to 3 fights. It's awful. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with Callum Smith. Obviously, he's mandated to face whoever the WBC champion is, and yeah, I mean, he'll probably get to fight for 2 belts, but will he have a real chance of winning it? Don't think so at this moment in time. Luis Ortiz looked bad against Dave Allen. Dave Allen looked really, really, he was really game. He was really good. Obviously, punch output is still a problem with him, but I think if he can train properly, he's really young. He showed an iron chin, marble chin, if anything. And, he wasn't in great condition either. So, hopefully he can come back. I think he's fighting in February. That's what I've heard. That's the rumor on the grapevine. So I hope he can come back and rebuild and not just be a journeyman for the rest of his career. He's got a bit more to offer, and I think it'd be a lot better if he can, rebuild. He's very young, 23, 24. So, yeah, don't think I'm missing it. Katie Taylor looked good, so she didn't get a knockout, but she looked pretty decent. I think that's it. I've covered most of the card, but it wasn't a terrible card. It wasn't spectacular card either.
Absolutely, yeah. There were fights that really caught fire, fights that really didn't catch fire. But yeah, all in all, I guess it's a better night than average. Tom, let's try and bring you back in, mate. Hopefully the internet issue will be cleared up. Your take on the undercard, and perhaps we'll move it on after that and go to your take on Parker Ruiz.
Yeah, well, the undercard, I didn't watch Scott Quigg. Fuck that. I watched a bit of Jack Reacher instead. And Jack Reacher, the new film, is absolute pile of horseshit, but it'd be better than watching Scott Quigg box. What else do we have? We had the Buglioni fight was a great fight. That was a really good fight. Look, I think the card was really, like, the headlining was nearly one of the worst. It felt like one of the worst, but the card was actually very good. The fights turned out well. Calify was very good. I had money on Concepcion on points, and
you were going to
two-weight world champion. Jesus, there was no market on Betfair to lay it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
After 2 rounds, I was going, Christ, I'm going to try and lay it, but it's such a small market, and I was like, oh, Christ. I thought it would fill up, on a pay-per-view card to be able to get rid of it. But he was very poor for a 2-weight world champion. I'd only seen a few bits of highlights on him. I just thought the odds were kind of crazy, but he's very poor. Cal looked very good. I'm sure I've seen Calify fighting, but I can't really remember seeing him. I don't know why, but he's a good technician. It's a good division. But look, put it this way: didn't he go life and death? Didn't your man Concepcion go life and death with Quadras?
Yeah, split decision. He lost on a split decision.
Yeah, and when people say that this super flyweight division is stacked, I don't buy it.
No.
I don't buy it.
No.
Quadras, I thought the Quadras pipped Gonzalez. If you're asking me, when I watched it, my first impression was, and Gonzalez pound for pound number 1, Quadras, these boys. I just think that division is hugely overrated. That's just, and I think that Calify will be able to if he's able to whitewash Conception, he'll be able to, and look dominant doing it. He'll be able to live with those guys, I think. We'll see. But I'm not a connoisseur of that division. But what else do we have? Callum Smith, yeah, another meaningless performance. The best people were saying like Callum Smith's best performances against Rocky from Stocky, but really I think it's Brass. I don't know. Does anybody else agree with that?
Brass, possibly, mate.
Possibly. Yeah. Possibly. I'd be inclined to.
And when he bet Brass, like his power didn't do anything to Brass, really, did it?
No,
that went 12 rounds.
He did drop him with the body shot. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I forget that fight. I did watch it, but it's a long time. It's not a fight I'd ever want to watch again. But Callum Smith, I picked up the two boys ahead of him. Well, I think he might have a chance against Badu Jack, but I think James DeGale has just got way too much in his locker for him. Who else was there? Is there anybody else interesting on there? The Buglioni one was great. We got to give real credit to Buglioni for coming back. And what the fuck? Buglioni showed head movement. Whoever saw Frank?
Because he's left Pascal Collins.
To be fair, I didn't even see. The first few rounds, he was trying. His jab was terrible. So I must have tweeted saying, the first minute of this fight has shown me Frank Buglioni has a worse jab than David Price. And Ultra Tech Sports got right on it and liked it and retweeted it because he knew it was true. It was embarrassing. I mean, Buglioni, he still got hit so badly. I just saw
he did get hit.
A picture of him and Burton, and
but lads,
so marked up. It's bad.
Yeah, but look at the other fella. Have you seen the other fella? Another thing is, your man's got a hell of a big reach advantage for him. Like, yeah. I remember when Frank was fighting on Warren, the Box Nation cards like 3-4 years ago and all this. He seemed to be trying to be more of a boxer behind his jab than a 1-2. Is that have I got that wrong?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. But earlier on in his career, I think he tried to box a lot more. But then, he kind of off. In a Markham fight, he was kind of... it was kind of like nip and tuck. They were going at it. I thought he lost the fight to Markham, to be honest. Sorry, go on.
Like, I thought he was really good. Come forward, and he showed head movement. Like, and he did get hit a lot, but your man's got really long reach, massive reach advantage. But fair play to him, and he dug it out. Like, it was a great fight. Great British. It shows you like what a good British title fight is. It's a good standard. But and all these crap WBO intercontinental East-West fucking marry a goat in a farm continental belts. So just complete rubbish. So good to see those ones coming on. Anything else? I think that's kind of it, isn't it? Was there
what do you think of Luis Ortiz?
I think Luis Ortiz is fine. He was never that fast on his feet. I don't know where people are getting this idea that he was spring chicken on his feet. But Dave Allen showed a great heart, very tough. But it'll be, it's not the way to do your career. I've never met somebody who goes in against the number one guy in the world when they're ranked 100th as a career move. I feel sorry for him because he should be getting a promoter because he probably has enough skill. Like, compare him to someone like Sam Sexton. To me, he's got a lot more in his tank than Sam Sexton has. And Sam Sexton, got managed to, I think, a British title. And so, I just feel like he should, I hope somebody gets a hand on him that'll do good for him. And I hope he doesn't, waste all his money gambling it all away again. But, yeah, that was about it. It was a very unsuccessful, I lost. I had 7 bets at the weekend and I only won 2, and I actually broke even to the exact penny. But it felt like a total disaster.
But your bet a week on Quella didn't come through, did it?
I was and I'm so fucked off after that I still haven't watched it. Huh?
I'm teasing.
No, you're dead right. I couldn't believe it.
Parker, mate?
Yeah, well, the Parker fight. Look, I won money on Parker on points, but I was very disappointed in him. I think he was very lucky to get that decision. I think if it was in America, it definitely would have gone the other way. I thought he showed a lack of confidence. I thought he showed a lack of aggression. I thought he showed, kind of a lot of fear in the ring, and a lack of conditioning. To be honest with you, like he didn't have a high output. I didn't feel like at the end of that fight, a 12 round, you're trying to win the heavyweight championship of the world. I didn't feel like either of the two boys were busted up. I felt like they had lots left in their locker. Like comparing that to say like Dillian and Chisora. Like I know not everyone is going to be a barnstormer like that, but like if there's 2 or 3 rounds to go in a world title fight, personally I would be letting it all on the line because it was tight. It was very close. I just think unless that was just a poor performance, because fighters can have poor performances, but I just think he's kind of exposed. If Hughie Fury goes in there with either of them two guys, man, it's a really easy fight for Hughie Fury.
Yeah, that was my next question. I asked it to the chat earlier. I said Hughie versus Parker, and the majority siding with Hughie.
Yeah, and I think Hughie's gone in already as a... Did I hear that? He's gone in as a favourite?
I believe...
betting odds?
Yeah.
And there's no, like, he's got massive, just even physical advantages, like longer arms, because your man's got very short arms. So, and he's got great movement. You could put him on a jab. Christ, if you're getting outworked and outboxed by Ruiz, who I was impressed with, I must say he did impress me. But it's more like for that fight, it was more like Ruiz was a bit better than I thought. Not so much better than I thought, but I thought Parker was just very lackluster. I wasn't impressed with him at all. Joshua would run through him. I really do think that unless he catches Joshua, or Joshua's chin is terrible. But I just still think Joshua just absolutely walked through.
I agree. I thought I was really disappointed with Parker. I was disappointed with the fight overall. I got the impression that if Ruiz had have been just a little bit fitter, a little bit, a few less pies in the build-up and stuff, he would have won that fight. I had it a draw on the night, and I watched it again, and I had it one round by 1 round for Parker.
What you call it, Paul? It kind of, when you were watching it, it felt like they both left it in the ring. It kind of felt like they were both kind of underperformed or didn't put it all in there.
Yeah, they did. I mean, like, they were very unambitious, both of them. I couldn't agree more with you, Tom. I think, like, it's a world title fight. Do you know what I think? I think Parker knew he was going to get the decision, and I just think he was just kind of like whatever, I think there was no way he wasn't going to get the decision, and I think he just wanted to avoid getting knocked out. I think that was what it was. I think he was a little bit wary of Ruiz's power, and it made him he just became very low output. Ruiz, I think it was probably fitness issues. I personally think if Ruiz had been a bit fitter, he'd have won the fight.
But whatever happened to Parker's jab?
Parker's got a great jab, but he just does not use it enough. He won't double it up. He you see the way he fucking fights with his arms low and everything. I think Hughie Fury runs through him. I think Joshua runs through him. I think Hughie Fury just boxed the head off him for 12 rounds.
I think Parker's style matches up very nicely for Hughie. Hughie would be a bigger man in there. He's got a better jab. He's got better defenses. Hughie moves just as well as Parker. Yeah, I think that fight works out well for Hughie, I've got to admit.
Hughie's a great body puncher as well, and you just see Hughie wearing Parker down, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree. Have you got any thoughts on the other fights last week, Paul? I I know Charlo put in a good win. Terence Crawford in the States. Abner Mares. Is there anything else you want to throw in before we move it on?
I thought Julian Williams was pretty much winning that fight up until the knockout.
Right.
I thought Julian Williams was fighting quite nicely up until the point he got absolutely just fucking almost turned on his. He almost spun round like fucking 360 degrees, like unbelievable knockout. I didn't see the Abner Mares fight. And what was the other one you said?
The Crawford.
Terence Crawford.
Has anybody else seen that fight?
Bud looked good, yeah. I thought Bud looked really good.
I thought Terence Crawford looked absolutely amazing in that fight.
Yeah,
I was just blown away. Like, to me, I know it's John Molina Jr. and all that, but he was putting Jr. Whatever you can say about him, he's tough, and he was putting serious pressure on Bud. Like, he was really running around the ring. He was doing a Golovkin, that real stalk impression. Now he's nowhere near the same fighter as Golovkin, whatever. But Bud just like destroyed him and showed such amazing skills. Like, to me, Terence Crawford goes in pound for pound number one. I was just absolutely, I'm totally sold on him now. I think he would go up to 147 and he would clean out that division if he's big enough, which I think he would be. And I think if he was to fight Floyd in the morning, I think he'd take Floyd too.
Wow. I need to watch this fight, don't I?
Oh no, he was good, but I don't know if I'd agree with that. I don't think he goes up to 147 and cleans out the division. I think Errol.
I think he's that good, Paul. He's that good.
I think Errol Spence beats him.
Look, it depends on like whether he can move up that division with his weight, But I think he probably can, because he is seriously ripped at 140 and he's not heavy. He's still skinny looking. Look at his midriff and his chest.
Big.
So I think
140. I think.
Huh?
I think he's quite big at 140. So I think he could go up to 147. Yeah, I agree. But I think Errol.
But his skills are. Sorry, I know what you mean. Errol Spence is like a total beast, but Errol Spence has to get there and hit him. Like Crawford just shows amazing movement and great punching he showed every punch in the book in that fight. Like that performance was, I know the standard of the opposition was worse than against Postal, but like I feel like he could have done that to Postal too, and that he should have, and that he kind of dropped the ball a bit, not putting in such a performance, because he was sensational against John Molina Jr. That's the only word I can give for it.
He did look good, but I think it's possible he beat Spence, but I think he'd probably do the same thing as he did in the Postal fight, which was, and I don't like this, but it's run. I mean, he fucking danced, and he just seemed to, for like 95% of the fight, just refused to engage. And yeah, he might win that way by pot shotting and not getting hit, but I don't know. I think any other way, I think Spence has got a bit too much for him.
I know people will probably think I'm off my head on crack, but to me that was the best boxing performance I saw of anybody this year. I just thought it was absolutely complete. Like, to me, it kind of felt like, Floyd earlier on in his career had some complete performances, but like that to me is up there with those ones. No, Molina Jr. is not as good as some of the people Floyd did it against, but totally complete. And if he went up and fought Manny Pacquiao, he'd do exactly the same thing to Floyd to him, and he'd probably do a better job of it, if you ask me.
Yeah, interesting. I'm going to check that fight out. I haven't actually seen it yet. I'm very, very high on Terence Crawford, as you guys know, so I'm keen to check that out. Jet, let's bring you in, mate. Final word on last week's fights. Anything you want to throw into the mix?
Yeah, I mean, Cuellar Mares was that was an interesting fight. I thought Cuellar would have a bit too much. I thought it'd be a bit too big for Mares. So, well done to Mares. He's obviously got a trinket belt, WBA regular. So, yeah, well done to him. Obviously, split decision. I don't know what that judge was thinking, giving it to Cuellar. But yeah, that was a bit dodgy. J-Rock, Charlo, I thought Charlo was going to win, so probably vindicated in that pick. Charlo, I think both of them have to be commended for their professionalism in terms of making weight and that sort of stuff. They're both quite big guys at 154. Charlo's huge at 154, and they only rehydrated less than 5 pounds. So, shout out to them. J-Rock will come back. He's very young, got a lot of time. Might pick up a belt if one guy vacates at 154. I know Eric Stanley Lara is actually fighting Yuri Foreman, which is actually a terrible fight. But hopefully one of the guys move up and J-Rock gets a vacant world title shot. Who else was there? Terence Crawford. I didn't actually watch a Terence Crawford fight, I'll be honest. But yeah, since there's been some glowing recommendation, I probably have to check him out. But to put him pound for pound number one, I'd probably have to disagree a bit. But yeah, maybe in a few fights' time, if he can clean up at 147, he's probably, I wouldn't say he's cleaned up completely at 140, but I think he beat Ndongo, who beat Troyanovsky last weekend. And, there's not really, Ricky Burns is not a, there's not a hope in hell Ricky Burns beating Terence Crawford in a rematch. So, yeah.
Jet, you could put Ndongo and Terry and Burns in the ring with them, and he'd beat the shit out of the two of them.
The same night, and then they'd lose.
Not the same night in the same ring. 2-on-1.
Probably, yeah. I wouldn't put it past Crawford to beat both of them on the same, both together as a tag team or something like that. But yeah, I'd like to see him with a few more fights, and maybe he'd probably be pound for pound number one then. But yeah, as I said, like some good fights. It wasn't a stellar sort of weekend. I know we obviously had a pay-per-view card over here, but there was some good fights, and it was a good watch this weekend.
I think that's the longest we've ever spent discussing last week's fight. We've spent about 1:15. Usually we spend about half an hour. So yeah, there was a lot of fights last weekend. So apologies we haven't been able to. Usually we'd give like Callum Smith fight 10 minutes or Kalia Fai's fight 10 minutes, but there's just so much to crack through tonight. But I want to move it on to our next topic. Anthony Joshua has been announced fighting Vladimir Klitschko April 29th at Wembley Stadium. Let's do a quick whip round the panel. Now, all I'm looking for here from the panelists is the name of the person who's going to win and the method of victory. We'll go into it in a bit more detail afterwards, but let's do a quick whip round first and see what people are picking. I'll start. I'm going Vladimir Klitschko to win by knockout. Jet.
Klitschko by... Klitschko wins, but I don't know how. I'll hold up on a decision or KO for now, but Klitschko wins.
Klitschko wins. Paul?
One word. If I had to put my house on it, I'd have to put it on Klitschko at the minute. But
Tom?
I think I'm going to go Joshua.
Ooh. By points or knockout?
Don't care.
Don't care. Interesting. Tom usually he's what I would describe as a bit of a sheep, really. He usually tends to follow the crowd, doesn't he? But going out on a limb here. Tom, in that case, we'll start with you, Tom. One of the reasons why I wanted to go around the panel was to see what order to bring you guys in on. But let's start with you, Tom. Do you think Father Time's catching up with Vlad?
Yeah.
Or do you think AJ's just that good?
I am really impressed with AJ. You know what I mean? I think it's one of those things that I think if AJ's he's in his prime and he's full of confidence, I think. Although I do think Vlad looks like full of confidence as well, but he's in his prime, and it's a year and a half since Vlad fought, and AJ's got fast hands with loads of power, and I just think that I think I'm not going to bet on AJ because I think AJ's chin is suspect. But I just think like that if he's, I can imagine him coming out and just winning. I don't know. I just feel like AJ's going to do it, but I think you can get 3-1. I think on Vladimir by a knockout, and I think that's the best to put it down. But because I think there's a good chance AJ won't be able to handle Klitschko's power. But similarly, the other way around. And if it goes to points, AJ's going to win it. And the other thing, it's Klitschko away from home. He's not going to be allowed to hug. Look what happened to him when he went to America to fight Jennings. They wouldn't allow him to hug and maul and push to the same extent. So, I think, I do, I just think AJ, but it's very, very close. I think if AJ can't take the power, he just gets busted up and he's going to get knocked out and the hype train is finished. But I think that he's probably slight favourite to do it.
Interesting. Okay. Let's bring in Jet. Jet, you were picking Vlad, so talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was actually speaking with a lot of my mates. I said they're quite casual fans, and they were like, "Who wins, AJ versus WK and that sort of stuff?" Obviously, all the terrible sort of promotion by Vladimir Klitschko after the Molina fight. But I mean, I just think he has the experience. He's gonna come. He knows what he's doing. He's gonna pop out his jab. He's gonna do the 1-2. AJ is not, a Tyson Fury. Of course he's not. But for me, Tyson Fury, elusiveness, awkwardness, he threw Vladimir off his game. Vladimir, yes, Father Time might have caught up with him, but there was a lot that Fury was doing in there that was putting Vladimir off his rhythm, so to speak. If you look at most of the guys that Vlad has been fighting over the years, Kubrat, Pulev, those sort of guys, they're quite big guys, 6'4", 5'6", or slightly smaller guys. If you go back maybe five years or so, Povetkin and those sort of guys. But they've been guys that kind of just pop out the jab and try and jab it out with Vladimir Klitschko. And I just don't think that AJ has a superior jab as opposed to Vladimir Klitschko. I think Klitschko knows what he's doing. He's perfected his style, jab and grab. Maybe might not be able to hold as much over here in the UK, but he's certainly going to be getting shots off, I think, unless he's completely shot. And I think big time experience. He's been there, done it before, and I think he could do it again in this fight. But AJ is live in this fight. I make Vladimir Klitschko a favourite, but not a substantial favourite. It is a close fight. And, if AJ lands, who knows? Vladimir Klitschko's never had the best of chins, let's put it that way. So, in AJ's supposed to have a bit of a shaky chin, obviously. Some of the rumours were that he got dropped by Lawrence Okoli. Lawrence Okoli actually tweeted something out. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, that he put rumours and a laughing sort of face. And it was a video of him sparring AJ that he didn't drop him. But, it is what it is. It's a tight fight. It's a good fight, especially, but very early on in AJ's career. Has he ever been testing like this? No way. And, I don't know if he'll live up to it. I think, Vlad will be a bit too much on a night.
Okay.
Lads, I think we kind of are underestimating AJ's jab a bit, I feel.
But does he have a better jab than
one of the best jabbers of all time, though, mate?
And that might be going a bit far, but AJ's got a good jab.
He might have a good jab, Irish Tom, but
they're the same size, and he's got.
But let's put it. But does he have a better jab than Klitschko's? You have to.
We don't know yet because.
I mean,
but the thing is,
he got beaten by Savon in the Olympics, and probably Camarelli in the World Championships, and those guys, I don't know. It's a tough one. I would like to pick AJ.
But that's 5 years ago. Like if we go back to that stage, you pick Gutneck to beat Gennady Golovkin. But I just feel like that, because AJ doesn't tend to have to use his jab because the quality of the opposition, have been so poor, and that they haven't been able to move, that he could just bomb in with his big right hand, that he hasn't had to build a fight on his jab. Like, the reason why Klitschko builds a fight on his jab is because he's afraid of his life of getting knocked out. So he jabs him to death for a while and then brings the right hand in. Like, AJ hasn't had that bad experience that Vlad has had. So he's not so reliant on his jab. But I can imagine AJ just battering fellas with his jab if he really wanted to.
What about the lack of head movement then from AJ?
That's my worry. That's my worry.
That's a big worry, I think, going later. You know, from earlier on in the fight, if you kind of suss it up and say, okay, look, Irish Tom, I know, is saying AJ might have a good jab. He might jab it out, and obviously it's a battle of the jabs. If Klitschko catches him a few times, he pops out the jab. You know, he has one of the best jabs in heavyweight boxing. Let's put it that way. But he's going to catch him a few times, and it's going to get more consistent, and AJ's not going to move his head. So, you know, going down the stretch, that's going to be a big problem. But yeah, sorry, I was cutting Paul off.
No,
Paul, do you want to get back in, mate?
Well, I think the question if it's Vlad is, you know, Tom makes a good point about it. He'll have been out of the ring for 18 months by then. I just think my worry with AJ obviously is are the rumours about his chin true? If they are, that combined with the lack of head movement tell you that Klitschko's gonna land something on him at a certain point. And if his chin's as bad as the rumours say that it is, then you've got to worry for AJ. It's close. It's, you know, if I had to put my house on it, at this stage, I would pick Vlad for the simple fact that AJ, you know, I was saying in the lead up to the last fight, in training, he looked like he was moving his head and stuff, but then in the fight, you know, no, he didn't have to, but you'd still like to see him moving it at all. He don't move it at all, and I just think he's going to be there to be hit a bit too much. And again, he's had 18 fights. I know he's a world champion, but he's had 18 fights. Don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of AJ. I think he's a massive talent. I think he's got massive potential. I think he could emerge as the best of this current bunch. But it just really depends on whether his chin is going to hold up or not. I don't think we've got any concrete evidence on it yet. He seemed to get wobbled a little bit by Dillian White with that left hook, but he seemed to regain his composure quite quickly. Actually, if you actually watch it, he regained his composure quite quickly. He became low output, but he did regain his composure quite quickly.
That's That's in the second round, though, Paul. If it happens to him in the 7th or 8th round,
I know. Yeah,
I was going to say his conditioning as well. How is his conditioning going down the stretch against, you know, a guy who's been 12 rounds, you know, more than a few times?
Yeah, I mean, this is a step into the unknown. You've got the fact that he's never been a distance. He's never been in against someone who hits hard. He's never been in with someone so experienced. He's never been in with someone who's got such a good jab. I view this as a monumental step up, and I think Paul's point was bang on. It depends. Both guys have the power to hurt each other, but I think Klitschko will land on Joshua, and when that happens, it's not as simple a question as will Joshua get knocked out. It's will he freeze up? Will he know what to do when he's under pressure? Because I'm not so sure he's the most comfortable and instinctive when he's under pressure. And I also think there's a higher likelihood of Klitschko landing on Joshua early because, you know, like Jet says, it's the head movement, but it's a complete defensive issue that he seems quite square, quite robotic, quite rigid. You know, you never know. He might just be able to go out and grind it out against Klitschko and win early. But if he's unable to do that, I view this as a very tough fight for him.
I think the longer it goes, and this is strange given that AJ's the younger guy, but I think the longer it goes, the more you'd have to favour Vlad.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with that probably as well.
Because
you still have to doubt AJ's stamina as well with the, with that sort of build he has. I know he's obviously a big fitness freak, but that's a lot of muscle to be carrying over 12 rounds.
Yeah. Also, as well, like if you talk about the Dillian White fight and Dominic Breazeale fight, I know he won both in the 7th, if I'm correct. And but those fights, maybe the Dillian White fight, maybe not, but the Breazeale fight definitely. He had that all his own way. You know, when the bullets are firing for 7 rounds, let's put it that way. How's he going to react? You know, as you said, BG, sorry, like his conditioning, is it going to be up to scratch if he's getting, you know, loads of punches thrown at him by you know, a top level heavyweight? It's going to be, you know, if he can answer those questions, fantastic. But it's going to be a really, really hard night to work at. You know, either way, even if he wins, I think it'll be a hard night to work. But if he loses, you know, for me as well, I'd just like to add, I don't think he comes out with this fight with as much credit as he, you know, possibly could. He's going to get a big payday, of course. Yes, you know, he's probably beating the number one. I think most people probably have Vlad as number one after Fury has kind of gone AWOL. But you know, he's already lost to Fury. You know, he's lost all of his belts. He's not really fighting for, you know, all the belts here, and it doesn't. You know, I don't know. I don't know what people think on that, but I don't think he gets as much. He'll get as much credit as he probably should do.
Well, Jet is a good.
What do you mean, Jet? Joshua won't get as much credit.
Yeah.
I think, well, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people, even after the Fury fight, said, "Well, Vlad's
gone." Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if he'll get credit. So
yeah, well, that's the question, isn't it? As well. I mean, you know, it may actually be the case that Vlad has just gotten old, because I mean, you know, however you view that win of Fury, Vlad didn't look like the Vlad
of old.
Even from the Jennings fight, he didn't even look like the same Vlad from that fight. He was very reluctant to engage, very reluctant to throw. And, you know, there's two ways of looking at it. Either Fury, his awkwardness and his movement was what made Vlad low output, or Vlad's got old overnight. If that's the case, then the chances are AJ will just go and blow him out in 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, the thing is, lads, there's a good chance AJ will just go out and spark him.
Yeah,
reasonably early.
Could do.
And then he'll get all the credit in the world. And remember, all these casuals that are watching on Sky and all that stuff, you know, they'll just follow whatever the fuck Eddie Hearn says. So if Eddie Hearn says it's the greatest performance in sliced bread, they go, yeah, it is. But, like, the one thing I'll say here is, as well, is that, you know, I'm very conflicted. You put me on the spot, Tom, to pick him, like, and I'm kind of going with my heart a bit.
I'm like, before your money tonight, Tom.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, whatever little I've left. But like, the one thing I have to say as well is that when you see Vlad and AJ and them hanging around together, like, going against my point is that Vlad looks very relaxed and confident. Like, Vlad never looked relaxed and confident the same way before the Fury fight. I always thought Vlad wasn't that confident looking, but he looks supremely confident, like he's going to do him. And I do think that, you know, maybe there's something that Vlad knows from sparring him that we don't. That, you know, it's in Vlad's favor. The other thing I'd say is I'm always slagging Eddie Hearn for putting on, you know, bad headline and shows and stuff like this. But Christ, we have to give it to Eddie now this time. We're giving him so much stick all this time. He put AJ in there with Klitschko, and this is one of the best fights in world boxing that you could have hoped for. So I'm fucking super hyped for it. I just hope it goes ahead and Vlad doesn't get injured.
Yeah, I'm super hyped for it as well. Absolutely fucking buzzing for it.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty big night. I'm actually just having a look at my phone, if you guys can bear with me for 1 second, because I'm being notified that there is a rant on Twitter from Mr. Tyson Fury, about this precise subject as we're live. So Tyson Fury has put up in the last hour really exciting press conference today between Flex and Klitschko. Thought they were going to blow each other. Same old boring shit. Then he's put, "It's hard to be humble when you're as great as I am," said the greatest Ali. Bums stay humble and lift weights. And then he's put a tweet out to @Anthony Joshua. "How do you become a legend? Through beating a man who I spanked and took all his belts. Then you robbed one. Legends don't do that." So yeah, Tyson Fury, obviously not amused following on from events, sitting at home. But there you go. It's going to be a very, very, very big build up to this fight. I'm looking forward to it, and we'll be sure to cover it again several times, I'm sure, in the lead up. So it's going to be good. But we must move it on, and we must move on to Chris Eubank Jr. fighting for a world title, or is he? Eubank Jr. is just
gossip. Are you cutting short our time on AJ versus Klitschko to talk about this shit show?
Have you got more to say on AJ versus Klitschko?
Let's talk for less than 9 AJ versus Klitschko, and no one would give a fuck if we didn't talk about Eubank Jr.
We got about half an hour left. We got to do Eubank Jr. We got to do Bernard Hopkins. We got to do Povetkin Stavern. So we've been rambling too much tonight. But yeah, Eubank fighting for a world title, so he claims, and he's taken to social media and he said, "How can anyone say the IBO is not a world title?" And he's posted a montage of various fighters, Golovkin, Mayweather, Klitschko, etc., all holding the IBO belt. So, Tom, we'll start with you, mate. Is this a world title fight?
Who are you talking to?
You.
Is it a world title fight?
Unless we've renamed one of the other members in the panel.
Sorry, my internet's bad. It cut out.
He's in.
Either that or Google is editing my name out of things, which is probably more likely. No. It's a terrible fight. But we got Eubank, and what was the other two? You said we've got to talk about Stavern and Povetkin, and what was the other one in between? Hopkins. You had them in the reverse order. We should be starting with Stavern. I know it's a terrible fight. How much money are they going to charge for this? What kind of?
They haven't announced that yet.
I heard.
I'm sure they haven't.
I heard something like 30 quid or something. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true though. I think that's bollocks.
Seriously, 30 pence is too much. What kind of
quid?
Yeah, that's what I heard. Something on the lines of that. But I don't know if that's true. That's probably BS.
What kind of undercard would it have? Imagine how bad the undercard's going to be. Who's even the promoter?
I don't actually know. That's the worst thing.
I don't know who the promoter.
I didn't got a clue.
I heard the name. It's something like Proxum or something.
No clue, mate.
He worked with what do you call him? He's Adam Etch's promoter.
Oh, really? He might as well just made Etches versus Eubank instead.
It's not even confirmed yet, though, is it? It's not on BoxRec.
Yeah, it's not on BoxRec, but he's confirmed. Like they've all sort of announced it and had, it's been in the press and that sort of stuff. But he actually
Richard Poxon. That's who it is. Whoever the hell Richard Poxon is, I've never heard of him.
And is it Peter Quinlan he's fighting, is it?
No. Reynold Quinlan. The guy who knocked out Daniel Gill. But
is it Peter Quinlan's brother, is it?
Yeah.
It's his sister, Reynold Quinlan.
I don't know if you guys seen it. It's on Facebook. He's Chris Eubank Jr. But for my loyal, and I quote, "For my loyal army of haters who came out in force again last night to claim that the IBO title I will be fighting for in February is not a real or recognized world title." Then he's obviously listed a few guys, and he goes, "So show a little more respect, and please don't let your hate blind you from the wonderful truth that is Chris Eubank Jr. will become a super middleweight world champion in less than 2 months on ITV box office." Oh God, this guy is deluded.
Reynold Quinlan. It's not even Quillen. It's
Quinlan.
Who the fuck is it? Who is it?
He beat
Someone
Gil.
tell me.
He beat Gil a few months ago, and it was for the IBO I think it was for the vacant title, and obviously he's won that, and he's fighting Eubank now. This is going to be terrible.
Well, yeah. I mean, I kind of, I'm with Irish Tom. I think we give this as little fucking airtime as possible. Like,
Yeah, let's move this on. I think.
I had so many questions prepared about this fight that I was looking forward to pumping you guys with. But yeah, we'll move it on, seeing as the apparent discussion.
We should
hit us with these questions.
Okay, here's my question then.
go on then, Tom.
Eubank seems to be saying he's going to be a world champion if he wins this fight. Now, one presume he's going to win the fight. Will he then stay at super middleweight? Is this him saying that he's no longer going to fight Golovkin? Is this him saying he's no longer going to fight Billy Joe Saunders?
I think if the money's right, he'll go down to face Saunders. But at this moment in time, he'll probably stay at super middle for the foreseeable future.
How could he? How? Like, why would he go down and fight Billy Joe Saunders if he's just after being offered $1 million to do it, and now he's fucking off to fight somebody's sister that we never heard of? He's going to get one for GBH.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't think he'll go back down to fight Saunders. If he's just been offered $1 million to fight him and he's turned it down, he's apparently been offered whatever it was, $4 million to fight Golovkin, and I don't know. They never seemed fucking serious, if you ask me. Right from that.
The Golovkin fight was never going to happen.
Right from that press conference after the Tom Doran fight, when Senior started making up all them excuses. Remember, if it doesn't happen, it's Sky. The first
pound goes to
dollar should fall to Junior. Blah blah blah. He was setting it up from then. So they were never serious about that. So I don't think so. No, I think he'll go up to super middleweight. He'll beat Ronald McDonald.
How many pay-per-view buys does it do?
At least 20. At least 20.
At least 7.
But lads, like when Chris Eubank Sr. had the WBO belt, that was about the equivalent of the IBO belt back in the day, and he held on to that, and he only fought domestic opposition, and he didn't fight anybody internationally that was anybody that had a pulse for his whole career. Now, if you ask me what's happening is they're going to win that IBO, they're going to defend it, and they're going to put it on ITV, and then they're going to wait until a real vacant belt comes available in either probably the super middleweight division, and somebody moves up or out of it, and he'll go in and he'll fight a spud for it. That's the plan. And never fight anyone.
And they'll probably call that a unification as well, I bet. 100%.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing, yeah. You're probably right.
Because the WBO belt, like, people remember when Herbie Hyde went over to fight, what do you call him? Riddick Bowe with the WBO heavyweight title. Everybody in America laughed at it. It was literally thought of as like the IBO belt. So that's the level. So I think we'll see something familiar like that. And he's going to call out everybody, all the biggest names, and say, they're all ducking him. And he's going to duck every single one of them when an offer gets put on the table.
That's, 100%, mate. I agree with you on that one.
So after saying he didn't want to discuss it anymore, Irish Tom rants for a solid 5 minutes on it. I'm kidding. Tom, take us
baited me into it,
mates. Hopkins, Joe Smith, and then also Stiverne Povetkin. What's your take on them?
No interest in Hopkins versus Smith at all.
I think Usyk is on the undercard against Michunu. Sorry.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, you can get 1 to 2 on Usyk to knock him out, which is probably good value, seeing that he's about 6 inches taller than him, and he's just going to totally smash him up with his jab and 1-2. So that's probably. I've looked at it. There's not very many good bets this weekend. Then the Povetkin versus Stiverne is a good fight, but that to me is an easy Povetkin win. But he's not on the Meldonium now, or if he is, he's getting help to try and get rid of it out of his system. He's on the VADA testing, so maybe he'll miss his Meldonium. But Stiverne, I think, is probably past it, to be honest with you. He looked very bad in his last fight, and he's done nothing in 2 years. So that's all I have to say about that, really.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That makes sense. Yeah, let's pass it over to you for those two fights.
Yeah, Hopkins, Joe Smith. Hopkins is he is what he is, and he should win. If he's got anything left in the tank, he should win that by comfortable sort of decision. Joe Smith looked good against Fonfara in his last fight. I think he caught Fonfara cold in the first round, and he got quite a brutal stoppage, to be fair. But Hopkins should win that fight. I don't know what the betting odds for that are. Irish Tom will probably be the guy to tell us that. Povetkin Stavern is half decent fight, but I'd expect Povetkin to win. It'll be interesting to see how good he is off the sort of meldonium as Irish Tom's pointing out. So I don't think he'll look as good, but should win relatively comfortably enough, and it's in Russia as well. So high chance of him getting a landslide sort of decision. Usyk versus Machunu is a decent fight as well. That's actually probably the fight of the weekend, and I'd expect Usyk to win that. Machunu's not the biggest of cruiserweights, and Usyk will be substantially bigger man and substantially probably more skilled. I'd say Machunu's got some decent skills, but not on the skill level of Usyk, definitely. But Usyk wins that fight as well, probably by KO, I'd say, or stoppage.
Okay. Paul, what about yourself, mate? Are you got some fights you're looking forward to out of the selection this weekend?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all of them, mate. No, that's a lie. I'm not particularly looking forward to Hopkins. I don't like the fact that he's still fighting at 51. I mean, what the fuck, man? He should win it if he's got anything left whatsoever. He's never been knocked out, and if the likes of Kovalev and some of the guys he's fought can't knock him out, then I very much doubt Joe Smith Jr. is going to knock him out. I think it's a puncher's chance he's got, if anything, and I can't see him knocking out Hopkins. So that's a Hopkins point to win for me. Stavern, Povetkin. It's a good fight. I think Povetkin will win it. I think Povetkin's the better fighter. He's only got about a year on him. I thought Stavern was much older than him, but Stavern is about 38, I think, and Povetkin's 37, which I thought Povetkin was younger than that. But I was looking it up today. There's only about a year in it. But I just think Povetkin's got the pedigree. I think he's the only thing with Stavern is he's durable, isn't he? He can take a punch. So it'd be interesting to see, like Iris said, what Povetkin's going to be like now without the old meldonium. We will see. Usyk. You guys know I'm a fan of Usyk. I'm a big fan of Usyk. I think he's by far the best in that division. Machunu, he lost to Ilunga Maccabi, didn't he?
Yeah.
The guy that Bellew beat. So I think Usyk will win that fight quite easily. I think he probably will knock him out. He's small as well. I think he's only about 5'10", 5'11". Machunu. So yeah, I mean, Usyk's got the upper hand in just about every department, by my reckoning. So some good fights. It's not a bumper weekend like last weekend by any stretch of the imagination, but. Was there another fight? Is there one I've missed out?
I don't think so. I think those are the main three. Are we missing one, Jet?
There's no more fights.
I'll pull something up, see if I can find anything. But there may be. I'm not. Let me have a look. Bear with me.
Stavern Povetkin,
Hopkins, Joe Smith, Usyk, Machunu. I think those are the major ones.
Anything on the Povetkin thingy undercard? Because that's in Russia, isn't it?
Yeah. I think Usyk is on the undercard, mate.
He's on the undercard of Joe Smith, mate.
Oh, is he? Apologies.
No worries, no worries. Let me have a look at there's anything.
There's a good point in the chat, which has come from
Barrera Shabransky.
56, which is Robert Hellenius returns this week against Omar Basile, who I believe is an Argentinian with very good tattooed facial adornments.
Hassan and Dam is fighting this weekend against Blanco.
Shabransky's fighting, Jack.
Sorry?
Did you say Shabransky's fighting?
Yeah, Shabransky's fighting Barrera, mate. That's on Friday, actually. John Pascal's fighting on Friday as well.
Who's John Pascal fighting?
He's fighting an opponent called Stepan Bozic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never heard of him, to be honest.
Yeah. That's probably it. Hassan and Dam is fighting Alfonso Blanco. I think that's for the WBA interim title. So,
oh, hang on a sec. Just having a look at BoxRec. Let me just pull this up. Yeah, Vijender Singh is fighting.
Oh, no one has any interest in that.
Checker. It's for the WBO Asia Pacific Super Middleweight title. The opponent is 32-9 with 2 draws. He's been stopped 5 times. So one would presume Vijender Singh will be a favourite there in his hometown of Delhi.
Yes.
Also, Paul, you were asking me about. You're asking me about Inui. He's fighting Kono on the 30th of December.
Yeah, well, Inui will smash Kohei Kono.
Yeah, Kohei Kono.
Yeah, Inui will smash him.
Yeah. Barrera Shabransky is a good fight though this weekend.
Yeah, that is a good fight. I like Shabransky. I think Shabransky will win that.
Yeah, same.
We've come to the end of our schedule, but we've finished earlier than anticipated. So I now feel very guilty for moving along the Klitschko versus Joshua chat more than I did early. So let me bring it back to that for 10 minutes, and let me ask this question. Eddie Hearn said today on an interview at IFL TV, Coogan was speculating: could the fight do 700,000 pay-per-view buys? Could it do 800,000 pay-per-view buys? And Hearn said it will do 1 million. I mean, one thing you've got to factor in is if they genuinely sell 90,000 tickets or 100,000 tickets at Wembley, and that's another question in itself. But let's say they did do 90,000 tickets. That's 90,000 potential pay-per-view customers down the pan. Those 70,000 people who will be able to attend, who wouldn't be able to attend if the fight was at the O2, would be pay-per-view purchasers potentially. So that's one thing to factor in. But Hearn's saying he could do 1 million. He's saying it's the biggest fight in British boxing history. What's your take on that, guys? Tom, let's start with you on that, mate.
I can see it doing 1 million. I can. It's going to get amazing hype, and it's a really top fight. So I can see it getting 1 million. Yeah. I don't really care too much about what these pay-per-views do, but I can see it. Yeah, easy.
See it doing 1 million. 1 million for me feels ambitious. Paul, what about you?
Well, how many did Floyd Pacquiao do?
I think that did. Was it 3 or 4 million?
But that was 60. That was $100 a pop as well.
Yes.
So it's like nearly 5 times, probably 5 times the price. So it'd be the equivalent of it doing 15 million in the UK to get the same amount of money involved. So it'll only do, like, with all the talk about how amazing and big it is, it'll only do 7% of what Floyd Manny did.
Yeah, I think 1 million is ambitious. For the same reason Tom said, I think the fact that it's at Wembley is going to. I mean, just law of just common sense tells you that 20,000 at the O2 leaves a hell of a lot more fight fans than 90,000 at Wembley does. I'm going to try and get to that. Actually, I might try and see if I can get tickets for it. But I'll tell you what, I did want to ask you guys. Do you really think Joshua will get credit for this if he does win it? Because I'm not so sure he will. I'm not so sure he will. I think you'll still get people that will be saying, well, Klitschko was definitely past it, the 18 months out, this, that, and the other. I don't think he'll get enormous credit for beating Klitschko.
Yeah, I think it depends how the fight breaks down. To be honest, I'd give him immense credit if he systematically destroys Klitschko over 3 or 4 rounds and, outboxes him and beats him up. And I think that would be better. If Joshua wipes out Klitschko in 30 seconds, I think he'll get less credit for that, which is maybe unfair, but I think that's a fact.
Yeah.
There's no way he'll do that anyway, because he's going to go out there and be tentative on his jab and see who can establish their jab first. That's definitely going to happen. I don't think he's going to bull, because if he does try and bull, he's just going to be afraid that Klitschko will time him. So I really don't expect him to bull in there.
Yeah, if it weren't for the fact that Klitschko carries so much power, and power is the last thing to go, isn't it? If it weren't for the fact that Klitschko carries so much power, you could see him maybe try and rush him and try and take him out really, really early. But he's not going to do that, given that Klitschko carries immense one-punch knockout power. He's not going to risk getting caught.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Jet, have you got gut instincts as to how big this fight is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, it could do $1 million, but maybe my guess would probably be about, if it doesn't do $1 million, it'd probably be about 850,000. If somewhere between 850 and 900,000 or something like that. But $1 million is optimistic from Eddie Hearn. That he might blow us all out of the water, and it probably does 1.3 million or something like that. But for me, probably about 850, 900,000, something like that. It will sell well. Loads of people, as I said, loads of my mates are casual fans, and they're buying. They're buying into the hype. Unfortunately, it's April 29th, so it's kind of exam season for students. So it's a bit tough to go to the event, but otherwise, loads of so many people would buy tickets to go there, especially if it was about 20 quid or 20 quid a ticket or something like that. Which it wouldn't be, but it'd probably be about £40 for the small, the lower tier, which would sell out instantly, and £60, £100, £80. They would, the tickets will sell, knowing the market in the UK, they will sell, and it will be, quite full, I think, at Wembley Stadium.
Yes, yeah. It looks like it's going to surpass Carl Frotz's 80,000, doesn't it?
Oh, I hope so, because he was banging on the other night, wasn't he? I hope AJ breaks the record so I can stop talking about my own. But we know he won't stop talking about it. He likes to open his trap. He was opening his trap about George Groves, wasn't he? And Chudinov. That super middleweight world title fight has been announced as well.
Was that? Yeah, has that been? We discussed that last week, didn't we? The Chudinov fight.
Yeah. So that's been announced. Yeah. He's put it on Twitter, and Kala and Nissa Saulen have come out and said that fight will definitely. It's been made. It's agreed. They're just looking at a time and a venue. That's pretty much it. That's a done deal. I don't know if you guys heard in the last hour or so, Huck versus Bradis for the WBC interim cruiserweight title has been made. So that's recorded. So that's another sort of decent fight.
Did you guys
say it again, Jet?
Sorry?
Wait, can you say it again, Jet? I didn't hear it.
Yeah, Bradis versus Huck for the WBC interim cruiserweight title has been ordered.
Oh, that's a good fight. Yeah.
Also, Cotto versus Kirkland. Have you...
Yeah, 153 catchweight, is it?
Yeah.
That's a pay-per-view bill over there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's done now as well.
I prefer to get a bunch of nettles and put them in my underpants and pay money to watch that.
Don't like that. 153, just fight at 154. Cotto's got to stop banging on with the catch weights. It's a bit silly now. I mean, obviously he's called out Canelo, saying he wants the rematch and that sort of stuff. And it could happen that he's fighting Kirkland at 153. It's kind of embarrassing, to be honest.
You wonder why. He was fighting at 155, wasn't he, before? Yeah. You wonder what the point is of doing it at 153. You're just going to upset everyone. I mean, Kirkland's famous for blowing up massively between fights, isn't he? So it's just any advantage they can possibly get.
I want to just hope they don't find Kirkland in the crack house again before this fight.
Apparently, he's been trained by Ann Wolf. So yeah.
Is he? Yeah. Huck Bradis is a sensational fight, though. I know it's been ordered. I'm not totally convinced that Huck will take the fight. Has he indicated he will yet?
It hasn't said. Obviously, it's just been a sort of report on Boxing Scene that obviously he's been ordered, and that they're obviously ordered to fight with Bellew fighting at heavyweight. He'll come back down and defend his title against Bradis. Grigory Zod is also there as well. He's he's champion in recess, so to speak. So he's there or thereabouts. So I don't know because
that fight, though, that's a tough fight, isn't it?
Sorry.
That's a tough fight to call, Huck versus Bradis.
Yeah, you know what? I actually think, if Huck still has the ambition he did, in the sort of Glowacki fight, I know he got KO'd in the 11th, but Glowacki is a good puncher. If he has the ambition he did earlier on in that fight, I think, he could beat Bradis. Bradis is a really, really, really good cruiserweight, one of the top cruiserweights, but, he's never been tested like, Huck's going to bring it. And I think that will be for the IBO title as well, since we were talking about the IBO title earlier. I think Huck holds the cruiserweight version of that.
I think that's a 50-50 fight.
Yeah, same. That's a fantastic fight, I think. Chocolatito versus Quadras rematch in March, apparently, as well. So something else for you guys to chew on.
Yeah. That Valili fight against Bradis. Bradis looked very good there, but Valili had some success in that fight, and Marco Huck he's a dangerous fighter for me. You could say that maybe Bradis is catching him at the right time, though. Huck's had a lot of fights and been in a lot of wars. Do you have an instinct on that one, Iris?
I don't think.
You there, Iris?
Sorry, what did you say?
You have an instinct on Bradis Huck?
I'll go with Bradis, but I think it will be a very good fight. I think Bradis will be able to fight a full 12 rounds at a faster pace than Huck will. Huck is doing his old fight in the last 30 seconds, all these German fighters do. So I think, depends where it is as well, because Huck is the money man. So, if it was in a neutral zone, I'd put money on, well, I don't know, see what the odds are. It's a close fight, it's just a good fight. These cruiserweights, man, they all fight each other, it's great. Huck's a bit of a warrior, I don't see him turn that down.
No, it's a good division, definitely, yeah. So next week we'll be obviously discussing the winner of Stavern, Povetkin, Hopkins, Joe Smith, Usyk, Machunu, etc., and all of those fights. Potentially, it'll be a slightly quieter show next week because, of all the as we get up to Christmas, there'll be less fights scheduled and that sort of thing. So we can maybe look at doing some other topics. Maybe we could look at the heavyweight top 10, given the amount of change in the heavyweight division recently, or maybe we could do like awards, looking back on the fights that.
That's a good idea, yeah.
This year, maybe we could have like 5 or 6 different categories. Like knockout of the year, fight of the year. Obviously, will be in both of those.
Idea, yeah. I would love to do that, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe we could all discuss via email who the nominees are, and
Yeah, I'll get people on Twitter to nominate people as well.
Vote, yeah. It's hard though. If you think like fighter of the year, most improved, knockout of the year, fight of the year, they're probably all going to go to the Welsh Warrior, Nathan Cleverly.
Oh.
So it may not actually turn into the best viewing as he wins award after award.
Yeah, but he won't win promoter of the year though.
He won't win promoter of the year.
That goes to. I'll leave that for next week. Actually,
that goes to Fish Eyes.
That goes to Chris Eubank Sr.
Goes to Fish Eyes just
Donkey.
for his immense venue picking skills for the Billy Joe Saunders world title fight last week.
Oh my, that was bad.
Yeah, well, the nominees for promoter of the year, I don't think we'll be doing any. I don't think there'll be any surprises. That the nominees will be Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, Mick Hennessy.
They don't have to be British. They don't have to be British.
Oh, we could do international prizes.
Yeah, international.
Yeah, absolutely.
Barry's got to be in with a shot, isn't he?
Barry McGuigan.
Yeah.
Barry McGuigan, interesting. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Anyway, guys, we'll call it a night there. covered a lot of ground tonight. You know, it feels like we covered some good topics tonight. So I hope everyone enjoyed the show. We got up to about 125 people watching at times tonight. So shout out to you if you've spent your Wednesday evening with us. Shout out to the panel as always, to Tom, to Paul, to Jet for giving up your Wednesday nights. If you've watched live, please hit the thumbs up button to support the channel, spread this to a wider audience. Subscribe to my channel, the Boxing Gossip channel, and also to Jet's channel, the Boxing Discussions. And we do this every Wednesday at 8:30. So join us next week. That won't be any exception, and we'll go from there. But yeah, thanks a lot, everyone, and have a good evening.
Yeah, to say one thing is, if anybody sees Sherry Abbasi, could they inform the police as well? He's gone missing.
He's gone missing. Apparently, he was last seen hanging outside Glowaki's gym. Yeah. There you go. And on that note, we'll call it a day. Cheers, guys.
Au revoir.
Cheers.
Good luck.
Thanks, everyone.